More mysterious UFO sightings still unexplained. This is Final Death Star. Welcome to an unfamiliar news update. As the year 2020 comes to a close, I thought we would look back today at 4 mysterious UFO sightings that to this day are still unexplained. This is coming from sciencefocus.com. Many objects have been mistaken for UFOs, from natural phenomena such as lighting spirits and meteors to experimental aircraft and weather balloons. The French UFO research group GIPAN found that 3.5% of sightings remained unidentified. Here are a few so far that have defied explanation. Number 1, Florence, Italy, 1954. In 1954, 2 local football clubs were playing in Florence, Italy, when the crowd stopped watching the game. Instead, around 10,000 fans were looking upwards at a strange craft. It was described by witnesses as either cigar-shaped or egg-shaped, along with silvery white threads falling from the sky. Samples mostly disintegrated on contact, but some were examined at the University of Florence and found to contain boron, silicon, calcium, and magnesium. While migrating spiders, which use webs as sails, were suggested as a rational answer to this aspect of the sighting, their silk is an organic compound that does not contain any of those elements. So here we have 10,000 fans, including 2 football clubs, that all saw not only craft falling from the sky, but debris and some sort of silky web-like material. It is a hard one to explain away, and to this day, it defies explanation. Number 2, Melbourne, Australia, 1966. Around 350 children and teachers at West Hall High School in Melbourne, Australia, watched 5 planes surround a silvery flying saucer-shaped UFO in 1966. The planes attempted to aerially herd the craft for about 20 minutes before it disappeared. A UFO theme park commemorates the event, and to this day, witnesses meet once a year to discuss their experience. Not only was it children, if it had been just children, you might be able to explain it away, kids' imagination, but with teachers as well, viewing this, it is a hard one to explain away. Plus, not only that, they have marked a theme park in the location and commemorate it by meeting once a year. Not only that, we have 5 airplanes surrounding this object. There was obviously something in the sky that day in Melbourne. Number 3, USA and Mexico, 1997. In 1997, thousands of people reported lights across several hundred miles of night in the skies of Arizona and Nevada in the United States and Sonora in Mexico. These lights were stationary or in a moving V-shaped craft in a triangular formation. The United States Air Force stated that the lights over Phoenix were military flares, but the V-shaped UFO remains a mystery. Now, what takes this story even further into mystery is the former Arizona governor, Governor John Fife Smithington, who first reported that this was indeed a joke. Military craft made a press conference and had an alien costumed person come out and make a gag of the whole event. Well, years later now, he has come out on the record saying it was indeed a UFO, something otherworldly, and he was pressured into making a joke of it back when it occurred in 1997. But now, having no longer held office, he is able to talk freely. And let's go to an interview with him and see what he has to say.
This event called Lights Over Phoenix. What did you see?
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. That was, it was just breathtaking. And I'm not sure about the date. You've got a better memory of the dates than I do. Yeah.
But there was no, like the Clinton day, no.
No. No, I was on a strict diet. No, I'm serious now. That it was unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
Doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying. So it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget, I snuck out to see it. without DPS, which I'm not supposed to be driving my own car and that kind of thing. And so, but I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "she looked like a ghost. What did you see?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I saw, but it was really something, and I'm not going to talk about it." And so,
did it frighten you?
No, I think I was kind of in awe, really,
How big?
Bigger than anything I've ever seen in the sky.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky?
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. And it was hard to define because of the light in terms of the size, but it was absolutely silent and had sort of eerie embedded lights, and, so that's what I saw, and I wasn't expecting to see anything because I was looking out over at Luke, to the west. And then all of a sudden, these people in the park area just on the west side of 51, there were a bunch of people there. Everybody said, "Oh, look at that!" And we turned around, and this thing was coming from the northwest, traveling to the southeast.
We now know, and it really hit me when we were watching the Diamondbacks in Game 7, and the B-1 flew over.
It wasn't a B-1 bomber.
But that thing all of a sudden out of nowhere appears. And I said to somebody that night, I said, well, when they do test these, they test them in populated areas. They're new stuff. They test it to see if people detect it. Do you believe it was ours? Do you believe it was something from the U.S. government that they were kind of flying around?
That wasn't even close to a B. It was much bigger than a B-1. A B-1 actually isn't that big. If it's at low altitude, it'll appear big, but no, this was totally different.
Something, though, that you think our own government may have been kind of running by a populated area to see what would happen?
Well, they certainly achieved their goal of stirring the pot, if that's what they were doing. But I don't think so. I think this was technologically far advanced. I use the analogy. Can you imagine if you took Christopher Columbus and put him in the cockpit of a Boeing 777? What his reaction would be? He wouldn't understand it. He would be convinced that this is something from another world, And I really believe that. I believe that. But I've always been open to that. We're not alone in the universe.
Oh, I agree with you.
We're going to find that out one way or the other. Even Bill Clinton was talking about that the other day on the national news.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I do believe that we're not alone. I just don't know that we've been visited. Well, you think maybe that night we were? I think so, yeah. There have been so many different sort of sightings and inexplicable phenomena that, but the disparity in terms of technological progress would be so vast that we would be, I think, of sort of no consequence to whoever is visiting us, because the technology to get here would be just beyond anything we could imagine. Did it hover?
No, it was just going in a straight line.
Slow pace?
Yeah, slow pace, yeah. And then, there were all the sightings. Flares. There were the sightings of the America West plane coming into Sky Harbor, said he could have landed on it.
It was enormous.
Yeah.
Like an aircraft carrier in the sky. Is that about as close?
Yeah, I think that's a fair description.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Maybe it's our next generation we're working on. Who knows?
Well, we'll find out it someday.
So there you have it, former Governor John Sminnington admitting that he saw a craft triangular in shape, silent, moving through the skies of Arizona that night. Not only that, it does not corroborate the military's explanation of military craft. Very interesting. Number 4, Redlochem Forest, UK, 1980. In December of 1980, this being the 40th anniversary of the event, U.S. Airmen stationed at RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk, England, were investigating reports of lights in Redlochem Forest when they saw red and blue lights and a UFO land. It was described as around 3 meters high and 3 meters in diameter and appeared to be standing on fixed legs. The material of the craft was smooth, opaque, black glass-like. The next day, indentations were seen on the ground and radiation levels recorded. On a separate night, another member of the U.S. Air Force set out to disprove his colleagues with a tape recorder. He reported lights in the sky that looked like an eye winking at you, and observed a beam coming down to the ground. 3 years later, the U.S. government released a report that described the encounter, which has become known as Britain's Roswell. While there remain believers, psychologist Professor Chris French, who has also visited the site, is among many of those who are unconvinced. A local forester said the indentations were caused by rabbits, and the levels of radioactivity were not especially high. As for the lights, I've heard the tape, says French, and the lights are in complete synchrony with Orfordness Lighthouse nearby. So there you have it. We have found the answer. Lighthouse and rabbits. And if you believe that, I have oceanfront property in Arizona you might be interested in. This is Final Death Star. Tune in Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time as we enter the unfamiliar on our live show. We talk about the UFO phenomenon, paranormal events, biblical prophecy, strange mysteries, and hidden histories. We thank you for watching.